Hello and welcome to Temple of the Muses with me, Jack Breed, where we interview interesting and inspiring people online. And this week we've got Johnny Depp on the phone. So, hello, Johnny.
Well, hey Jack, yeah, how you doing? I just got back from Colombia and South America. It was pretty wild. I just thought I was going to church on Sunday in the suburbs, and I'm not very religious, but it was a thing with the family I was staying with, and so we went along. And it was a fairly wealthy suburb, and quite a few of the people there had bodyguards. And halfway through the service, there was some commotion at the back, and we turned around to see what looked like militia filing in with machine guns. And some of the bodyguards tried to get their guns out, but we were shot on sight. I mean, we were, as you can imagine, terrified. Everyone sank to the floor, not knowing what on earth was going on. So we were marched out of the church, the entire congregation, of about 200 must have been, in order to get into these buses that the militia had parked outside. And some people were shrieking and screaming by this point, and particularly old men for some reason, who tended to be silenced with a rifle butt to the face. And when our bus was full, it drove off south out of the suburbs along the river. We had no idea where we were being taken, and quite a lot of people were wetting themselves with fear, and so the bus was increasingly smelly and covered in pests. But after perhaps 4 hours of driving, or an hour, I don't know, I mean, we started to ascend into some hills up winding roads with forest either side, and eventually the road petered out into a track, and after a bit the bus stopped and we were ordered out, and we were marched along a series of forest tracks for about half an hour upwards into the hills before reaching a forest camp with various militiamen and women in forest gear with these hats on wandering around. And And there was also a Western photographer there with a beard who seemed to be some kind of journalist. And, we were all still completely terrified at this point, as we thought we might be shot at any moment. But as a family, we were shown to a wooden hut with some camp beds in it. And we talked to some of the other people, and they said that this was a kidnapping by a left wing paramilitary group, the FUCK, and that we would be held until the government gave in to their demands. And any attempt by the government to rescue us would be met with armed resistance and the death of hostages. And so we realized we were in a jungle prison for an indefinite period of time. So we settled into a daily rhythm of washing in the mountain stream, eating a breakfast of jungle fruit, and then hunting chickens in the afternoon with our bare hands in order to have something to eat for dinner. And as I said, many of those kidnapped were from relatively wealthy families, and they really struggled with camp life, making requests for more makeup and new designer shoes or a better quality of mattress, all of which was met with howls of derision or the odd rifle butt to the face by the guards. One middle-aged woman, though, was so annoying that eventually she disappeared, and the story was that they let her out into the forest to fend for herself. We heard later that she'd been eaten by a tiger, and her remains were found in a cave. The leader of the camp, Jack, he was an effeminate man with a bald head and sunglasses, and he seemed pretty boring to me, but the photographer journalist was obsessed by him and kept on wanting to take pictures and hear what he had to say, and this made no sense at all until we were told by somebody else that the bald camp Camp leader had been a famous, if not particularly interesting, South American pop star in the 1980s, a sort of Colombian Jimmy Somerville. During the day, the camp leader, Captain Chickenheart we called him, would sit in a kind of wooden throne in the middle of the camp with the photographer fussing around him. But at dusk, he'd disappear with the photographer, and I became increasingly curious as to where he went. And one night, followed them along a path to a clearing with a makeshift jacuzzi in it. Captain Chickenheart would get his guitar out and start playing hits by the traveling Wilburys, and the photographer would dance around semi-naked, saying whatever words that he knew. Captain C would also play the odd Roy Orbison song, which the photographer would similarly mouth along to, only knowing half the words. This pantomime would continue for a few hours until they were tired and went to bed together. I never did hear any sexual noises from the jacuzzi, and the impression was they were platonic, if pretty weird, partners in nostalgic jacuzzi-based entertainment and nothing more. I would creep down and watch their strange show most nights, sometimes singing along to the Roy Orbison numbers quietly in the dark, but they never noticed. After a week watching, it gave me an idea, and I went around the camp looking for a black Big O wig and sunglasses. I took the costume down to the jacuzzi that night and hid in the bushes. When we got to the chorus of "I've Been Crying Over You," I jumped out of the bushes, fully Big O'd up, and started singing with them in the dark. Neither of them could believe it, in their deluded jungle state, completely convinced that I was the Big O, and that they got down on their hands and knees and to worship me. I beckoned them to stand up, and we finished the Big O repertoire, after which I disappeared into the bushes. The next morning, there was a big commotion in the camp. Captain Chickenheart gathered everyone together, including all the guards, and in a long-winded fashion said that he'd been visited by God, the Big O, that evening, and he'd seen the light. He was going to let us all go, as long as we did him one last favor, a camp sing-along Big O concert that evening. We spent the rest of the day rehearsing, and that night put on the most impromptu jungle-based Roy Orbison tribute kidnapping prison concert that I imagine South America has ever seen. I've still got the photos on Facebook, and it was probably the best time of my life. I jumped out of the bushes again, halfway through, in my Big O costume, and Captain Chickenheart went absolutely mental, as did the rest of the crowd. The next morning, we were set free to wander down the hillside towards the main road, where we got on a chicken lorry back into town. When I got onto an internet connection, I befriended Captain Chickenheart and the photographer on Facebook, and we still keep in touch. There's no hard feelings now, even if he did kidnap us and threaten to kill us. Somehow the whole Big O experience transcended all the imprisonment stuff, but that whole episode changed my life. I went from wanting to be a sales assistant at Walmart to a Hollywood actor, a pop star impersonator, and the rest is history.
Okay, well, thanks, Johnny, for that really interesting, inspiring story. Great to talk to you on Temple of the Muses, and see you around. Ciao.
Yeah, good to talk to you too, Jack. And perhaps see you sometime down in Mexico. Bye.